What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode here on Stefon's Vlogs. First and foremost, I just want to apologize. Well, I always told myself I was going to stop apologizing for not posting regularly on this channel, but I do want to apologize for not being up to date so much on vlog style vlogs like how the channel is. I should honestly probably just make this channel an interviewing you, interviewing me channel, because literally that's all I've really been posting, kind of in consistent manners. I have been very busy, so I've been trying to keep up with like schedules and projects and stuff like that, and I've just been kind of in my own mind, I guess, so to speak, in doing that stuff. A lot of you guys have probably already seen some of the stuff I've done. One of the biggest projects that I have ever worked on happened not too long ago. It was the Big Sean Single Again music video. I got a chance to work on that. Such an amazing experience working on that video. Working with tons of great creatives. Getting to meet Big Sean, Keith Powers, Ryan Destiny, Haha Davis, Lawrence Lamont. It honestly was a dream come true working on that production. And a lot of great opportunities I think will come from that, definitely. So I gotta say thank you to my cousin Hilton, who was the first AD on that project, who got me on that. And also thank you to Lawrence Lamont and We Are Invisible Co., all the producers, Big Sean, and everybody, Keith Powers, Ryan Destiny, thank you so much. So today's episode is very important. It's actually an episode I've been wanting to do for a little while now. I just didn't really know how I wanted to, I guess, break it down. As I'm recording this, I don't really have anything planned to say. I just want to kind of talk about the books that I've been reading. A lot of people who are probably watching this right now might be other filmmakers, might be other creators, might be entrepreneurs, whatever else, or might be just somebody who just wants to see what I'm doing. And I'm glad that if it's just a regular person watching this, like they don't have a specific goal-oriented, I guess, set mind, or they don't have, like, I guess, a certain career path that they're heading for, this is really for you. Reading books is honestly one of those things I never thought I would be interested in, because, you know, when you kind of go through school sometimes, at least for me, I honestly did not feel like I was interested at all in reading any kind of books, simply just because the books were boring. I don't know, it's just, a lot of it has been, you know, such and such. Like, honestly, just reading books all the time just was never fun to me. I just remember through elementary school it was kind of cool. I honestly don't remember reading too much in middle school, and in high school I did not like any books besides maybe like two. I liked The Great Gatsby just because around that time is when the most recent great version of Great Gatsby, Leonardo DiCaprio was in it, directed by Baz Luhrmann, I believe. And then also I loved Of Mice and Men. Of Mice and Men was probably the only book, narrative book wise, in high school that I was really kind of delved into. And in college, I don't think I read anything in college besides maybe like books on film or just like stuff in school, but I really didn't like have books of my own that I necessarily read. So fast forward to now, or at least in the last 3 years, from like 2016 to 2019, I've honestly have really gotten to read a lot. There have been a lot of books that I've actually invested into, and I feel like they were just not only great investments, but they have helped me kind of invest into other things in other areas of my life and other areas of just like my success and career and stuff like that. I would say at the very end of 2018, at the very end of last year, is when I really started to like apply these books so heavily into my life, just because they really, I don't know why, but I just felt like I needed to take in more information, to take some of my stuff to the next level, to get more information and knowledge on whether it was just people or industries, or just figure, you know, kind of have stuff that can help motivate me and figure out ways to create stuff for my own business. And I want to talk about all of the books basically that I have and that I own, some books that I may have not read, or some books that I have already read, or books that I'm reading right now, and explain how they have helped me become who I am today, and have helped me actually create I guess a really good, proper mindset that I believe for myself now. So here's the first book, Steal Like an Artist, 10 Things Nobody Told You About Being Creative, by Austin Kleon. I got this book, I want to say probably somewhere around like maybe at the beginning of the year. I honestly got this probably like around my birthday or something. It was kind of a cheap book, so I just decided to pick it up. And as you can see, it's really small. There's not a whole lot of pages whatsoever. And just the title of it, just the look of it, you know, Steal Like an Artist. And just that title in itself, it kind of made me, it was very interesting. I actually read this entire book. I took a lot of time to it, and I think I actually want to reread it, just because there's a lot of really cool concepts and really cool ideas in it that I really took from it, especially when it just comes to being creative and when it comes to, I guess, creating some things. It has 10 little things, basically, that say of how to unlock your creativity. One is Steal Like an Artist. Don't wait until you know who you are to get started. Write the book you want to read. Use your hands. Side projects and hobbies are important. The Secret, do good work and share it with people. Geography is no longer our master. Be nice, the world is a small town. Be boring, it's only the way it's the only way to get work done. And creativity is subtraction. I really read this, and I think this book has honestly probably made a pretty big impact in as far as creating stuff right now. I actually just recreated my resume not too long ago, and I took a lot of stuff from my old resume, not necessarily the projects that I worked on, and stuff like that, but simply just the, the cover letter. I repeated some things in the cover letter, may have changed a few little words around, and maybe added a little bit more, a few more stuff, but simply enough, this book is wonderful. If you are a creative person or an entrepreneur of any sort, I honestly think this is a book that you should read. Just going off of some of the main points that it goes through, there's a lot of stuff that I've kind of already believed in within the book, specifically stuff like be boring. It's the only way to get work done. Like, I feel like in my entire 3 years of being back in Indiana, I feel like I've applied that to my life. I don't know how much now, as far as being boring. I feel like I miss out sometimes on some of the so-called fun stuff that certain people might think is fun. Side projects and hobbies are important. Use your hands. I mean, it breaks down a lot of great stuff of just sometimes practical and maybe sometimes impractical ways in creating stuff, and just steal like an artist. If you kind of go off the idea that really nothing is original, there's always certain little pieces and points taken from something else to create, whatever project here, then you kind of understand where this book is coming from. I really love this book. I would suggest anybody read it. It's a very good book. It's very short. I do want to reread it because there is some pretty important points in here that I liked a lot. I don't exactly remember the quote, but there was something about how it says in here how basically having a few books that you haven't read on your shelf, how that's kind of like a good thing and that's not a bad thing. Because a lot of people, sometimes they'll see all the books that I have and they'll ask me, oh, have you read this yet, or have you read that? And when I say no, they'll kind of be like, oh, what are you doing? You ain't reading none of these books. And I think, like, well, I'm getting to it. I got a hell of a lot of books and a whole lot of pages and not a whole lot of time to read sometimes. So I really liked that book kind of covered it. I do want to find the exact quote, and I'll have it posted on the page here. But definitely a great book. I suggest anybody who's a creative to read this book because it really is amazing. Another book that I have is Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Peppernell. So this is a poetry book. This is very different from what Steal Like an Artist is. This is kind of just like some very emotional poems. I used to have the one poem named Milk and Honey, but I actually gave that away to a friend of mine because I felt like she could take from it a little bit more than I would. I loved Milk and Honey, though. I actually probably like Milk and Honey more than Pillow Thoughts, but I bought Pillow Thoughts simply because of the cover. If you look at the cover of Pillow Thoughts, it's literally like a jellyfish, like kind of out in the open in this dark area. To me, right off the bat, I thought that was an incredible cover, and I decided to read it. I actually have not read through all of it yet. All I know is that it is a collection of poems, specifically kind of I think about heartbreak and stuff like that. And I think we all go through heartbreak and love and stuff like that. And I just felt like it was a interesting poem, interesting book to pick up for sure. I definitely love poetry. I really would credit poetry to a lot of, I guess, some of the scripts that I've created, or the music from No Sweat Pimp and stuff like that. I would consider poetry to be kind of like one of the other small pillars that kind of boosted my creativity for sure. So Pillow Thoughts is a great book. I would suggest picking it up. There is a second Pillow Thoughts book. I have not read that, and maybe if I finish reading this, I'll probably go and pick up that one, maybe if I like how this all went. So far, I like some of these poems for sure, but I think, like I said, Milk and Honey, I forget the actual author of that, but Milk and Honey is an incredible poetry book. I also want to put that on the list of poetry books to get. I think Milk and Honey is like the only poetry book I have. And then another one by Khalil Gibran, for all the poet heads that know who that wonderful person is. I would suggest to go pick up Pillow Thoughts, Milk and Honey, and then I forget the one from Khalil Gibran, but any one of them from Khalil Gibran is going to be great. Third book is actually a book that I haven't read yet. This book is called U-Turn Now Really? U-turn now. Crazy story about this book actually is I actually met the author in Fort Wayne, Indiana, me and my friend Troy. We went to Fort Wayne into the mall, and we just happened to bump into this guy. He was basically on a book tour selling his book. He's from out of Atlanta, Georgia, I want to say. And yeah, we got a chance to speak to him and bought his book, wanted to support him and stuff like that. This book is a 30-day devotional that will change your life forever, basically. And I just haven't read it yet simply because when I do read it, I do want to actually read it day by day. And I think I will probably read this specifically at a certain time before the end of the year. I think I will read this. I imagine it's going to be a good book. It's definitely probably something I feel like that kind of relates heavily into like religion and stuff like that. So I am interested in reading this book. Shout out to Michael Clark if you happen to be listening. Go check out his book. Very good guy, and hope to read it pretty soon. How to Be Calm. Now this book, I just picked this up randomly. It's by Anna Barnes, by the way, is the author. I picked this up when I was in Fort Wayne. I was in Barnes & Nobles, and I decided to pick this up because you know, I thought this was going to be a book that I was probably going to need one day, and I was right. This is definitely a book that I need. How to Be Calm is basically, I mean, it sounds exactly what it sounds like. It just tells you how to be calm in many different ways. Stuff that's external, stuff that's internal, stuff that's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. I think there's a lot of actually really good tips in here that I think a lot of people could benefit from. I honestly am a pretty calm person in general. I don't like to stress out over things, especially when a lot of the stuff that happens to us in real life sometimes are really out of our control. So I just like to be calm. And plus, with the industry that I work in, being a filmmaker, film director, stuff like that, being calm is something I always have to be. So this book really talks a lot about different stuff. It talks about aromas. It talks about meditation, breathing, yoga. I mean, it just talks about a lot of really great stuff that, you know, some stuff that I already do and some stuff that I already knew, but like specifically there's a lot of stuff that I do want to try. I do want to kind of try a little bit of like that aromatherapy. It talks a lot about this. It has specific, I guess, methods and ways to kind of help be calm through having certain aromas, like having a certain aroma and then putting it behind your ear so you can smell it more like throughout the day, or you know, stuff like that. And I think there's a few things I definitely want to try in this book. I read this book fully within probably about, I want to say like 2 or 3 weeks. I think it is another short book, you know, and there's a lot of pictures and stuff inside of it that you know, aren't always necessarily, you know, just straight reading all the way throughout. It kind of gives you an idea of different methods of how you can quote unquote be calm. So yeah, this book is the one. I love it. I like it a lot. Now onto the book that I'm currently reading, Charlemagne the God, Black Privilege. I got this book, I want to say probably at the very beginning of this year as well at Barnes & Nobles. A lot of these books I got are from Barnes & Nobles. But yes, Black Privilege. I've been wanting to read this for a long time. And you know, Charlemagne the God, of course, is a like classic, I want to say icon radio personality on The Breakfast Club. I watch The Breakfast Club almost every day when there's, you know, new episodes or interesting guests that they're on to interview. And Black Privilege, Charlemagne the God, is one that I'm reading right now. I think I have not read it fully. I think I'm in the size. It's not the size of the pond. That's the chapter that I'm on. For anybody who's read this book, you know that it's like in the beginning. And so far, I really like it. I think it's, you know, gonna cater a lot towards me, specifically when it comes to making this next step in my life. As you guys know, I plan on moving to California, and there is a date with that in mind as far as when I'm leaving. That'll be talked about another time. But I feel like this book is gonna be a very blunt kind of explanation of you know, Charlemagne's life and kind of how things affected him and how he got to how, you know, he became so successful. And just the idea that it is a privilege to be black, I think, is something that all people should really take from. I know a lot of people, some people at least, don't like Charlemagne, but like, I think this book is an incredible book so far. And I think just from what I've read, it's definitely something I can relate to, I believe. And I think it's going to cater to me a lot, just as a young black kid trying to make his way and find his way. So Black Privilege. Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull. Now this book I was reading. I think I actually got this book from Amazon. I didn't get this from Barnes & Noble, but I was reading this for a little while. I got this sometime, I want to say either in 2017 or 2018. I want to say 2017, but Creativity Inc. is basically a book that, you know, basically says overcoming the unseen forces that stand in the way of true inspiration. This book, of course, if you guys don't know who Ed Catmull is, Ed Catmull was like the president of Pixar and Disney Animation. Pretty big credibility, honestly. I have only read, I think, probably like 16 or 17 pages in. I just found the bookmark that I had for it, and yeah, I didn't read too far into it. But from what I actually did read, at least in the beginning, there was some pretty good inspiration for it, for a script that I was writing at one point. Specifically, just kind of how Ed was talking about how he kind of became into learning more about Disney and just seeing how, I guess, creative and how much groundbreaking impact that they had in the very, you know, like early 1900s and stuff like that. You know, like I don't know the exact date, but I'm just gonna say early 1900s. This book, I think, is great for people who are trying to figure out creativity and trying to find, you know, the inspiration, how to inspire through their creative processes and stuff like that. So I really want to finish reading this eventually. I want to say probably after I finish up Black Privilege and after I reread Steal Like an Artist, I probably want to fully delve into this because just in the timing of where everything will be, this will be the actual thing to go to. So yeah, my favorite book probably out of the bunch that I've read so far, Gary V, Crushing It. I got this book, I definitely believe probably about the end of last year. And let me tell you, this book has been something of a journey. This book is probably the one book that has, out of a lot of the books, this is the book that's probably gotten me, I guess, the furthest in delving into some of the stuff that it talks about and kind of applying it to my life and into my career. I love this book. I really, really do. I never read Crush It. I know he had another version called Crush It, and I want to say he had a book before Crush It as well, but I just went straight into Crushing It because at the time, I didn't know of Gary Vee when Crush It was out. He put out Crushing It around the time when I started to really kind of pay attention to his work and pay attention to his words and stuff that he was saying. And it is a signed copy. I don't know where the signed part of it is, but definitely, oh, here it is. I got the signed copy of the book right there. And I want to tell you, this book is awesome. This book is amazing. This is definitely the book I would suggest for anybody who's wanting to start a business, for somebody who's wanting to be an entrepreneur, someone who's wanting to be a creative, somebody who just wants to work for themselves and actually take that next breaking step, to basically make something of themselves and make something of their life. This is the book that you should read for sure. What's good about this book is it really tells you how to utilize each kind of wave of social media, and I think that's one of the things that I liked about it. Like literally, if you see up there, it has all the different kind of social media things right there. You're gonna have like Instagram, Facebook, and all that kind of stuff, and Snapchat. I mean, it tells you how to utilize that. Not only that, but it also has stories from people who, quote unquote, how they're crushing it or how they crushed it in a sense. There's people who really went through terrible kind of like, life happenings and stuff like that. And, basically, created a lane for themselves after working for years and years and years. And they crushed it just like that. This book is incredible. I'm telling you, it's a great book. I would suggest to read it. There's a lot of stuff I took out of it. I really highlighted a lot of particular parts in the book. Like I'll go to a specific highlighted part. So this is in the What Still Matters part of it. Literally he says something that says, I promise you that getting into this game for gold is the quickest path to long-term failure. And I definitely agree with that. I highlighted that specifically because that's something that I kind of believed in a little bit more as I kind of went through my 3 years in Indiana, especially from people I mentored, because a lot of people are kind of in it for the short term thing to get money and get to that success when they don't realize that entrepreneurship and stuff like that is a long-term game. Like you're in it until you're dead, damn near. So this book is incredible. I would suggest to read it, and not even just. And if you don't get a chance to read this, which I would highly suggest to read this, like look into Gary Vee, Gary Vaynerchuk. Honestly, has tons of great advice on his Instagram. I'm telling you, if you're not following him, you need to be following him. I'm gonna link his book and all of these books down in like an Amazon link below, because you guys should check these out, especially this one. This one's my favorite. And then last but not least, my two other favorite books, The Filmmaker's Handbook and 48 Laws of Power. So let me start with The Filmmaker's Handbook. It literally says that, I believe, on the back of this book or something like this. This is basically the Bible when it comes to film, when it comes to digital filmmaking, in the digital age, so to speak. I bought this book back in 2017. I think I bought this alongside Creativity Inc. This book, when you hold it, and as you can kind of see, it's heavy. There's like, let me see how many pages exactly there is. There's like over 800 pages in this book. And I actually have not read all the way through it, simply because, one, I just don't have the time, but a lot of the stuff that's in this book, at least, there's a lot of stuff that I already do know, but there's of course tons of stuff that I could find out from this book. And I believe they've updated this book a few different times. I want to say this is the most updated version, but this book is incredible, honestly. I have read through a little bit. I've kind of skimmed through some different stuff. I've actually gotten some pretty good information on film within this book. And I think when I go out to California, I think I'm going to read this book a lot more, because I really want to kind of take more time to delve more deeper into some of the production, post-production, pre-production, development. I want to delve really deep into that, and I think this book, honestly, is just like, it's heaven sent. If you're a filmmaker who wants to know more about the industry, know more about what it's like being in a production, post-production, pre-production, whatever, I really, really highly suggest to get this book. I mean, this book, it's all the way worth it for sure, for any filmmaker. So yeah, great book. Last but not least, the book that most people probably already know about, 48 Laws of Power. 48 Laws of Power is honestly one of the greatest books, I think, in the history of mankind. So Robert Greene is the author of this. He's done a couple other different books. He's done like The Laws of Seduction. He did the 50th Law, which is basically kind of expanding on this with 50 Cent. He did something with that. I want to say he had another book too. There's a few different books that he's done that's been very monumental, very popular and stuff like that. But I think 48 Laws of Power is probably his most popular book. I actually got this back, I think, in my senior year of high school, based off of what my brother was kind of talking about it. My brother was reading it, and he really kind of kept some of it to his mind. And I kind of looked into it and said, you know what, I want to get this book and kind of see what it could pertain to me, and if I could actually relate to something, or if I could learn something from this book. And I want to say I learned a lot from this book for sure. I simply remember one of my teachers in high school, I mentioned this book to him, and he kind of talked about how this book, would just make somebody be a complete asshole or a jerk. And I want to say, honestly, I agree to like 1 or 2% of that. I think this book, truthfully, when I honestly read this book and I think about some of the different laws, I do think that some of it seems very contradictory to another, and and it can be a contradiction to some people's lives, but I don't think the 48 laws is supposed to be like, okay, you have to add each law. Like each law you're following from tip top to tip top. I don't really think it's that kind of situation, but at the same time, it's like, it's something a little strange there, honestly, that's happening. Some of these laws I really follow to the T, just when it comes to life and when it comes to me as a CEO of my company, SW Films, and an entrepreneur and a filmmaker and a creative. I really hone in on these laws a lot, because I feel like it does give me a little bit more of a powerful authority position, basically, as I kind of go throughout working in my field and stuff like that. Especially in these bigger industries and stuff like that, you got to have a little bit more authority. You have to be really on your game, and you have to be almost pinpoint accurate and stuff like that. My favorite law, of course, is Law 37, create compelling spectacles. That's my favorite. I think that kind of hones in on anybody who really creates, who creates of any kind, filmmakers, musicians, artists, stuff like that, comedians. I mean, many different art forms. To me, that law sticks out to me a lot. There's a lot of other really great laws too. Law 39, stir up the waters to catch fish. or, you know, be royal in your own fashion, act like a king, to be treated like one, Law 34. You know, Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. I mean, there's a lot of really good points here. And what I really like about the book too is that it goes back within history to kind of explain how a certain person during this timeline of history, how they kind of use this law, or maybe even have created it subconsciously or unknowingly created this law for him to make this, basically, and how that worked in their favor, you know, in the history, like way back. I'm talking about like you know, BC, not BC, but like AD type stuff. Basically, it's a great book. I've told myself that I want to reread it because I want to reapply pressure. I think it's important, and what I mean by reapply pressure, I mean it as simply just like reapplying pressure for myself as a human being and some of the stuff that I want to do with my career, but also just reapplying pressure to maybe the things around me, you know, and kind of knocking them out of the way, and just, you know, keeping myself up to date and educated with some of these teachings in this book. I would definitely suggest this to anybody. This book is incredible. If you feel like you don't have control when it comes to like your career or like authority, or like you don't feel like you're, I guess, powerful enough in that sense to where you can kind of handle things on your own, I would suggest getting this book. It'll give you some good perspective. It gave me some great perspective. Like I said, I don't agree with everything in it. I do think there's some contradictory. The laws are kind of contradictory to another, some of them. But majority of this book, I think, is going to be for great growth for anybody. And that's it. That's all the books I have. I do have some more books. Like there's some back there. There's like magazines. I do have a lot of magazines and different stuff. I have also like 2 Godzilla like art books for the most recent films, the one in 2014 and the most recent one that came out, King of the Monsters. Because, you know, I'm a Godzilla fan. I gotta have something like that. But basically that's it, guys. I just wanted to talk to you guys about some of the books that I have and how I found them very insightful for me. Reading is very important. I think, honestly, if you're a person who maybe has dropped out of high school, dropped out of college or whatever, I think reading, educating yourself by taking in knowledge like that is one of the best ways for you to kind of just to move along without having that normal education system. If you don't read, if you don't like to read, if you're like a high schooler watching this right now, or you're a college kid who's dropped out and you literally don't want to read because, you know, you hate it only because the teachers put you in that position to where you had to read this, I just want to tell you to stop being an idiot, stop being stupid. And I hate to sound super blunt and stuff like that, but it honestly is true. Educating yourself is very, very important. School is one of those things, honestly, where people look at it for education, but truthfully, and I think still like an artist said this, but school is not necessarily meant to be tied in with education. Like, people think about it, but sometimes you can go to school and not get educated, especially in like public schools nowadays. Like, sometimes they're not going to teach you what you really should know. And I think these books that are out there in the world are going to educate you damn near more than a lot of these schools and teachers would. So honestly, I'm a big advocate, guys. Read books. Read. I mean, if you feel like, and read different types of books. Read books that are good for yourself. Read good narrative books. Read books that'll, you know, tap into your emotions and tap into your spiritualities. You know, books that can help you invest in your physical. It's very important. It's very needed. And I highly suggest that you guys go and pick up a book and read it. Read 10 pages a day. But thank you guys once again for checking out this vlog. I appreciate you guys. There is going to be a few different changes on these last couple vlogs for the year. Simply because, like I've told you guys, I am moving to California and it's coming to reality very, very soon. I think I'll talk about that in the next few vlogs. But specifically, guys, these vlogs are very catered towards a few different things. This is just being insightful. This is about education. And I want you guys to take an opportunity to read some of these books and, you know, fill yourself. All the books are down below. I've linked all of them so you guys could probably buy them or something. I don't have an Amazon affiliate link, but I think you guys should definitely pick up some of these books. It's very important. And remember to subscribe to SW Films and subscribe to Stefon's Vlogs. Stay up to date. Click that notification bell so you guys can get some more vlogs, especially the next one. The next one is fun. And also remember, guys, that every vision is made with cinematic excellence. I'll see y'all later.